Hello and welcome to the lovely old course at Villamor in Portugal, where we're filming this rules video looking into some of the rules and regulations governing clubs and equipment. Now, clubs and balls have their own rules in the rulebook, rules 4 and 5, and there's also extensive additional information about the design, manufacture of clubs, etc. in the appendices at the back. Appendix 2 covers clubs, Appendix 3 covers balls, and then there's even an Appendix 4 governing other bits of equipment. For example, this little thing here, the tee, that can't be more than 4 inches tall. You may think 4 inches is a heck of a tall tee anyway and really of no consequence, but there is a regulation governing the height of the tee and 4 inches is the maximum. Shoes is perhaps another slightly surprising addition to that Appendix 4. They can't be designed to help you take or build a stance nor assist with alignment. And then there's DMDs in there as well, which are part and parcel of the game, but technically at the moment still not allowed by the rules of golf. There has to be a local rule in force to allow the use of DMDs in a competition round. That's going to change from the 1st of January 2019 when they will be allowed, but could still be disallowed via local rule if any club so chose, although I don't think many will. You might be relieved to know that we're not going to delve too deeply into the world of the appendices here. That's pretty high-tech, detailed information that is really of no concern of yours. I guess you just have to assume that the main brand golf equipment you're buying will be conforming to the regulations, but that may not always be the case. Maybe not with the main brands, but with some of the lesser brands and more budget price gear. We'll come on to that in a minute with one specific example. So we're just going to take a little look now at some of the rules governing clubs and balls and equipment out on the course. And the one that everyone knows, I think, is that you can't carry more than 14 clubs. Maybe they don't know that those 14 clubs can be made up in any way you like. You could carry 2 drivers, one to move it one way, one the other. You could carry 2 putters, left-handed one for short putts and a right-handed one for long putts. You could carry a kids club if you wanted. You could carry a left-handed club for getting out from beside trees if you wanted to use one of your 14 club allocations for that specific purpose. How the clubs are made up is entirely up to you. What you can't do is carry more than 14. If you do discover that you're carrying more than 14 clubs, then I'm afraid there is trouble ahead. Now at that point, when you discover you've got more than 14 clubs in the bag, however many it is, you are assessed a 2-shot penalty per hole at which the breach occurred in medal play, but that is subject to a maximum of 4 shots per round. In match play, it is 1 hole. You are deducted 1 hole for each hole at which a breach occurred, with a maximum of 2 holes to be deducted. In Stableford, the penalty is slightly different to in medal play, and the reason for that is relatively simple. If you were just to get a 2-shot penalty in Stableford, an 8 becomes a 10 on a hole that you've blobbed anyway, you're not really being penalised. It's still 0 points. So in Stableford, what you must do is report the incident to the committee at the end of the round, explain all the details, and then you'll be assessed a 2-point deduction for each hole at which a breach occurred, subject to a maximum of -4 points. So far we've talked about what happens if you discover more than 14 clubs in your bag midway through a competition round. What you must then do at that point is declare the club or clubs, the offending club or clubs, out of play. You must declare that to your fellow competitor, your opponent or your marker, and you must then not use those clubs or club for the remainder of the round. If you do play a stroke with them, then I'm afraid that is the big DQ for you, and you'll play no further part in that particular competition. Now, one question we get asked a lot at the magazine is whether you can use a 2-faced chipper or not. That club that gets a little bit of a hard time, I think, given that for many people it's perhaps the best way to get up and down around the green. Well, unfortunately, you can't use a chipper that has 2 faces. Such clubs have been made. Don't know if they're still available, but I'm afraid they are illegal. And the reason for that is that although you're often using more of a putting action, a putting style of stroke, they actually have to conform to the rules governing iron clubs found in Appendix 2 of the rule book. The regulations there say that iron clubs must only have 1 striking face, so I'm afraid that rules the double-sided chipper out. You're also not allowed to have a putter grip on a chipper, and you're not allowed to have appendages on it for aiming purposes. So if you've got a double chipper at the moment and you're playing competitive golf, you need to remove it from your bag and find another way to chip out from beside trees the wrong way around. The penalties for carrying a club like that are very similar to those for carrying more than 14 clubs. And again, the penalty for actually using a club like that is similar to carrying on using a 15th or 16th club after it's been discovered. It is DQ. So I'm afraid if you've got one of those in your bag at the moment, you need to replace it with something else. Another club that was in the news an awful lot, maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, was the long putter, the broom handle and the belly putters. What's going to happen with them? Are they going to be banned? Well, in the end, the clubs themselves weren't banned, but certain putting actions and styles were outlawed, so you can no longer anchor the club against your body. However, that does mean that the clubs themselves are still legal as long as they are not anchored. So if you see someone with a broom handle putter, don't get on their case. They are still allowed to use it as long as they are not anchoring the club against their body. One thing that will change from 2019 though, when the new rules come in, is that you will no longer be able to use a long putter for measuring purposes. Sometimes that has given people a slightly unfair advantage. From 2019, you will have to use the longest club in your bag for measuring other than the putter. So long putters will no longer be able to get you an extra couple of feet away from what you're trying to get away from. Let's just look now at those slightly unfortunate days when a club gets damaged out on a course during a competition round. Well, there are distinctions here between damaging it accidentally and damaging it maybe not deliberately, but certainly in anger or through anything other than playing golf the normal way golf is supposed to be played. So if you attempt a risky shot by a tree, or you find there's a tree root where you didn't think there was one and your club gets damaged such that its playing characteristics are changed, you may carry on using that club for the rest of the round if you so wish. However, if you damage the club through a willful act, so slamming it over your knee, slamming it into the ground, I'm afraid you can no longer use that club if it has been rendered non-conforming or the playing characteristics have been changed. If you do continue to use a club that you have damaged yourself, then I'm afraid you will be disqualified. Interestingly, from 2019 onwards, 1st of January 2019, under the rules modernisation, that distinction will no longer apply, and however a club is damaged, you will be able to carry on using it for the remainder of that round. The adjustability of clubs has become more and more prevalent in recent years, hasn't it? Drivers in particular can be tweaked in many different ways, weights can be moved around, loft and lie angle can be changed, and you can stand there on the range trying to sort out your slice, soften your draw, hit it higher, whatever you want to do. And that's all fine as long as you restrict that to the practice ground. What you can't do is tweak those adjustable clubs during a competition round, and if you do so, you'll be in a spot of trouble. If you do so but don't actually use the club, the penalties are similar to those for carrying in excess of 14 clubs. And again, if you do actually use the club, I'm afraid it's the big DQ for you. So you may have an adjustable driver, all singing, all dancing, lots of things you can tweak on it, but reserve that tweaking for the practice ground or the driving range, and once you're out on the course, leave well alone if you don't want to fall foul of the rules. As we draw this little rules video to a close, if you've got any comments or questions, please place them down below and we'll do our very best to answer them either below or in a forthcoming video. And if you're liking the video, don't forget to click the like button. We're just going to finish with 3 things regarding this little thing that we hopefully hit about 72 times around, but often many more times than that. The ball, this one here is a Titleist practice ball. It's got practice stamped on it. One of the GM team has snaffled this away, hopefully inadvertently, from a tour event they've been at where the pros will have been hitting this ball on the range. Is this ball legal or is it not? Well, unless there's strong evidence to suggest that this is a non-conforming ball, you are perfectly okay to use a ball stamped practice. It's pretty much guaranteed that if this is a ball that's being hit on a tour range, it's exactly the same Pro V1 as that would come in the packet you buy in the shops. So it is a conforming golf ball and you can use it even though it says practice stamped on it. Here's an interesting one. Can you actually beg, steal or borrow a golf ball from someone you're playing with if you happen to run out while you're in a competition round? Well, the answer is generally yes. I think John Daly ran out once, didn't he? And I think Tiger came perilously close to running out at Pebble Beach once. And there would be slightly different conditions in those instances because of a thing called the one ball condition that's in play in professional and elite amateur events, where those players must use the same make and model of ball throughout. At club level, that generally doesn't apply. So in most competition golf that you play, you wouldn't have to use the same ball throughout, which means you could, in theory, borrow whatever you like from someone you were playing with if they were happy to let you have one. That means you could dispatch your last gleaming Pro V1 to a watery grave, find that whoever you're playing with only carries crossed out top flight XLs and have to complete the round with that. But better to complete the round than to walk in from the 13th. So yes, you may borrow balls from a fellow competitor or opponent as long as they're happy to lend you one, unless the one ball condition is in effect, which generally it won't be at club level. Finally, you can replace your ball between the play of holes at any time, however badly damaged it is or it isn't. But when you're playing a hole, you can only replace it if it's become visibly cut, cracked or out of shape. You have to alert your opponent or fellow competitor, and you inspect the ball between you and decree yes you can or no you can't. Scuffs and scrapes are not enough, but if the ball is damaged in the way specified just now, then you may replace it while you're playing a hole. Now that rule is going to change just a fraction from 2019 in that the out of shape part of it is going to be done away with. The idea being that the modern golf ball construction and design means balls pretty much don't go out of shape. So it's basically going to be cut or cracked going forwards. We hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, as I say, comment down below, ask us any questions you like. We'll do our very best to answer them, and we look forward to seeing you again in one of our rules videos soon here on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. See you again soon.